One, so I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in honoring our country and our state by the Pledge of Allegiance flags? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. All right, item number 2, receive comments from public. Is there anybody signed up for public comment? All right. Item number 3, consider an act request for adjustments on special charges. Is there any?
Nothing this month.
Nothing this month again. Nothing. Good. All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda?
So move. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, regular agenda. Item 10, consider an appointment of new directors of Andrew Freeman and Mindy Reynolds to fill the vacancies of the board of directors, including the following matters. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you, I guess.
Yes, sir. So I do have the documents to seat Andrew and Mindy. You can go by Andrew or Andy.
Andrew, but Kurt, if you're gonna call me, you can call me Drew.
Okay, Drew. All right. So we do have the documents for Drew and Mindy. I can go ahead and perform the oaths for each one of them, and then we can accept the documents and move on to the other items that are on the agenda under B through E.
All right.
Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
All right, I'll go ahead and read the oath. What I do. Raise your right hand. You, Andrew Freeman, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of the Woodlands Municipal Utility District Number 1 of the state of Texas, and will to the best of your ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help you God. Close. And here. You, Mindy Reynolds, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of the Woodlands Municipal Utility District Number 1 of the state of Texas, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help you God. Congratulations. Y'all's.
Take your seats, guys.
Participate in the remainder of the meeting after we take action on A. All right, so do we have a motion on 10A to accept the qualification statements, bonds, oaths of office, and affidavits of current directors and elections not to disclose for Drew?
I so move.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, next item, election of officers to the board. So Mindy, y'all can participate in this action item. So right now we have a vacancy.
No, we have, we're going to have a new slate.
Currently, we have a vacancy of vice president.
Yes.
And secretary. So I've got nominations here from Apartment, a slate that will retain Walt as the president, have Bob Lilac nominated as vice president, have Drew nominated as secretary, Mindy nominated as assistant secretary, and Director McIntosh will remain a director. Do we have other?
You can pass it down.
Other nominations? Any other nominations?
I'd like to make an amendment to what Hartley did, is that we make Walt first alternate, and I'll take the second alternate
Yeah,
position.
I have no objection to modifying the slate before we vote to accommodate that amendment.
So we did not put on here today, we have election of officers to the board. We did not put on here to consider modifying the trustee positions.
No.
So if y'all want to do that, because we already had, well, we can put that on there for next month if y'all want to consider
I don't think
trustee positions.
I don't know why we just can't take the amended slate as proposed, where we leave Hartley.
That is. We're going to include those in the minutes, okay?
So
We're going to include that slate as given. And the slate includes first and second alternate as amended.
that is not on your agenda. We have a separate agenda item.
Well,
But
as an exception,
it is
and as
on the
exception
agenda.
of policy,
It is on the agenda. It's on the agenda. It's the election of officers to the board of directors. So that's what we're doing.
As a course of dealing, we typically have a separate item for
okay,
trustee.
then we'll do it now and put it on the agenda for approval of the action previously taken. Next month.
Okay, so we're gonna have alternates on your next month's agenda for.
You're gonna have approval of the slate as amended. So we won't approve it this time. We're just going to approve up to the positions minus alternate and trustee.
Right, so the other, so those will stay as.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, so that takes us down to item C, approval of an amended district registration form. This is a document, as y'all, the existing directors know, the newest document we have to follow with TCEQ, our regulatory agency. That lists some factual information about the district, including who all the directors are, what their term of office is, and what their officer positions are. So now that you are both seated, we need to update that form to include both of you as directors and what your officer positions are. Do the motion on approving that district registration form.
All right, do I have a motion?
I so move.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Next is update the local government officers list in connection with conflict of interest disclosure requirements. We're required by law to maintain this list. The list includes who each of the directors are, as well as who your investment officer is. And so we need to update that again, include that.
Does that include notifying the Association of Water Board Directors of the new members?
That's separate. So staff will work to make sure that we've got the new directors registered for AWPD going forward, so y'all can attend
Thank you.
conferences and have access to the resource materials. Do you need a motion on D?
I so move.
I second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
E is informational. So Mindy, in your packet, there is a memo about the Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act training requirements. So there's 2 1-hour videos that y'all need to watch. There's a link on the memo where you can go to watch those online. Once you've completed them, you will be able to download and print a certificate of completion for each of those 1-hour videos. When you complete that, if you give that to staff, and they'll keep that in your director files, that will evidence you completed both training requirements. The good news is you only have to do it once. It's not an annual requirement or an ongoing requirement. So once you check that box, then you're finished with the training obligations. No actions.
No action taken on it. Okay.
And then F, conflicts disclosure statement reporting requirements. You can have another memo. Place of interest. If you fill out the check yes, no items, if you've got any questions about potential conflicts, visit with me. We can visit about it offline and determine if there's anything that you want to do related to a potential conflict.
And who includes them on our bond?
So that will be staff that will work to make sure that they're included on your insurance bond.
We need a motion. We don't need one. I got.
No motion on that.
All right.
And that will take us through all the director appointment items.
Okay, well, welcome, Gus.
Yeah.
All right, item 11, receive and act upon staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election. I think it's in our package.
That from last month that you remember,
And,
Metro had,
Yes.
said they wanted to participate.
And if you looked it over, to refresh the memory of the new directors, MCAD has two elections. Back in the 80s, the state legislators said that small conservation reclamation districts didn't have an opportunity to get in on a board of MCADs. And so they will have a special election, and then they will elect a person to run in the election for the terms of office of the 5 directors. And every MUD or Reclamation Conservation District has to cast their votes for that member. If they cast their votes, okay? And Arthur Bredehoff is our current representative, and he knows the election process, and he's been through it before. This is the first of 2 elections, and I would nominate Arthur Bredehoff to be recipient of our votes, which are listed along with the others as small reclamation and conservation districts in your packet. And they have 798 total votes, which, by the way, is not enough in itself to be elected in the second election. So he has to go out and find some other votes somewhere. And so that's a motion that we cast our nomination for Arthur Bredehoff.
I second that. And I understand we have 5 votes. Is that
That's what
correct?
it says.
So I think this is did Metro?
Yes.
Yes, they did, but we always put it in every packet in case they want to nominate somebody else.
Technically, you don't have to nominate because Metro nominated last night.
That's right.
The action
But
would,
we have to cast our vote.
oh, that's next month.
Yeah, you don't.
Oh, you're not casting your votes till next month.
Right.
Okay, sorry about that.
This is in case you wanted to nominate somebody else.
It was fine.
You don't want to.
And by the way, when we had high tax rates, the small reclamation districts, conservation to include the MUDs, had a lot of vote. For example, MUD 40 had a 94 cent per 100 tax rate at that time. Now we have 7. So, and you get your votes based on the amount of money collected in taxes. That's how people get the vote.
All right, so we have a motion to nominate Arthur Bredehoff as our candidate, MUD 1. Third second on that.
I'll second.
All right. Do we take individual or do we just, okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Appreciate the support.
Thank you. for-
Excellent campaign.
It's a listening campaign.
If I could, to add to Hartley's comments, it's a challenge with a lot of these small MUDs. Contacted over 111 special purpose districts to let them know that we want to be a candidate and that we're running again. The sad part about special purpose districts, out of 796 votes, if 300 votes are actually cast, that's probably a high number. So we keep working these special purpose districts to try to cast their vote. The challenge is a lot of them are not set up like us, right? A lot of them have agency companies that may represent 10 or 15 of them and are outside their district. So it is a challenge. There's more MUDs being added every year. Not every MUD when they first come on to MCAT actually has votes. the way Hartley's indicated, because they haven't collected taxes. But I appreciate the support here. We're on the agenda on Thursday night with the township, so we hope that goes positive. And if that goes positive, that'll be probably the first time we've worked together since maybe about 2014. So that's a good step for this community to get back with that level of collaboration. So thanks again for your support.
Thank you. All right, item 12, receive the Santissimo River Authority report.
Morning. For the benefit of the new directors, my name is Chris Meeks and I'm the Utility Enterprise Manager for the River Authority. What that means is I manage the Woodlands Division as well as the GRP Division. So the GRP Division is the surface water plant up on Lake Conroe. So I have a couple hats, but I do have a couple people as well that may be talking. You guys can introduce yourself.
So good morning, Dan Hildebrand. I'm the Technical Services Department Manager with the River Authority. So the Technical Services Department oversees the engineering, the project management, construction management, inspection. We got a GIS component. So that's the department I oversee, and we really work towards executing projects, 10-year project plan, deliver those.
And Sally Lawhawk, I am the Woodlands accountant for Estuary, so I do all of the accounting and all of the project accounting for the projects that are coming up and budget and everything. So if you have questions on that, I'm one person to help with that as they go through Eric, but we'll help with that in the accounting department at Estuary. And we have some budget stuff coming up in the next few months. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
So on the bulleted list, we have some things to cover and some things we don't have to cover. So we do not have an update on infrastructure funding at this point. Right now, the consultants are still working with the various entities in the state to help try to get more funds for the Woodlands. Right now, we're looking to try to get $2 million for lift station 24 on Flint Ridge, try to remove the building, raise some stuff up because it did flood during a couple of storms. So that continues. Bear Branch. So the second, third, fourth bullets don't deal with Mud 1. So there's probably information in your packet, but since it doesn't deal with Mud 1 and y'all don't fund it, I'm going to pass by it. One thing that's not a bulleted item that I did forget that's very important. On page 50 is the trustee summary. So at the trustees meeting, Ed Shackelford, who is the director of operations, he's essentially he's my boss. He read a statement on Jace Houston and his resignation. I can read that statement, or it is put into the trustees packet on page 50, word for word of what he said. So
I don't think you need to read it. We can read it.
Just want to make sure. So that is there. That's very important. Talks about the path forward and everything else. Summarize it real quick is this Thursday, June 22nd, the River Authority will approve an acting general manager while they use a head-hunting service to find the permit. Yeah, so.
And by the way, they did withdraw in the Senate, they withdrew the amendment to have him terminated.
Correct. The sunset.
And that was wonderful, but I can't believe that we have representatives from Montgomery County that supported that amendment.
Sure you can.
On the item here, the draft Woodlands Division FY24 budget, I presented that last month. I can get a copy, or Shelley or Eric, y'all could, to the new two directors. Next month is the time we will vote on it, where the MUDs will vote. So we'll ask the MUDs to direct their trustee how to do the official vote in August. So our fiscal year runs from September 1st through August 31st. Right at the tail end of it. Haley, do you remember what the rate increase was? Was it 2%?
2% for wastewater, $1.65. Water went up to the 270.
So about a 2% wholesale rate increase. Now the GRP division is not having a rate increase this year, just a reminder.
Did you pick up a packet last month? So they have the information.
I appreciate that. Another thing on the draft Woodlands budget is just keep in mind that you are just approving the FY24 budget and the FY24 portion of the 10-year project plan. You are not going to be approving the entire funding for the 10-year project plan in its entirety. So there was some confusion, so just FYI, there's not hundreds of millions of dollars you're approving with this budget.
And we'll vote on that next month.
Yes.
Okay.
The last item I have here is the AC water lines, starting on page 34. We were sent about 16 questions from 2 different directors, not in this mud. And so we went through those questions and we answered them best we could. Out of those 16 questions, there are 3 questions that we cannot answer right now. Those 3 are 9, 10, and 11. They require additional research, additional data, and in some cases, it actually requires software or a third party to help us. So summarizing those on page 39, you'll see a table. The 2 of the questions will be about $175,000 to answer. The third question, which is the predictive modeling, it's a to be determined. We have not received that estimate back from the consultant on how much it would take to do that. So what we've done is we've answered the questions we could. We've stated the cost for the additional analysis. Dan has more information if you'd like to go through that. We're not asking for a vote at the MUDs. At the trustees, though, we are presenting this. And we did present this, and in July, we'll be presenting again and saying, what do y'all want us to do? It's $175,000. There was a lot of discussion at the trustees. And Harley, I don't know if you had some good comments. Didn't know if you wanted to add something.
We have new directors and new trustees. And they have a great deal of talent to bring to each one of the boards. And I respect that. But their minds go over time. And sometimes they bypass the people we have hired and pay handsomely to do the work. And that's the San Jacinto River Authority and our general manager and assistant general manager. And at no time in this prolonged discussion, until I said, I want it pushed to the next month, because we didn't hear any recommendation or consideration from either San Jacinto River Authority or our general manager. And they're the ones we hired to do this for us. So they're going to give us recommendations next month. And then we're going to vote. And if you have any recommendations today for this board, we'll listen to them.
I have 2 questions. One, does staff have an opinion on whether this is a worthwhile investment? And second, will this delay any of the projects from starting or increase the cost of the project?
Increase. They did not budget for these things.
Right, so I'll take a stab at both of them, and I'm going to pass it over to Dan. Yes, we have an opinion. My general opinion is that we don't have all the data to make the analysis worthwhile. When you do the predictive analysis, there's going to be a lot more information that's requested to get a good, relatively pinpoint accurate forecast, if you will. Right now, we don't have that data, so you're going to fill it with a lot of assumptions. Then, like Harley said, we don't have the $175,000 just sitting to the side to do this analysis. Then yes, on your second question, it will delay it. The water line break analysis for $25,000 will delay it, give or take 2 months. The next item being the additional project schedules and consequences, 6 to 9 months. And then the predictive modeling, probably done at the same time, you're still talking 9 to 12 months. So it would delay the AC lines at least another year out. And we currently have Town Center, which runs up Brogan's Mill, under design now, set for construction January 25. And we have 2 others that are potential to go to design later this year, early next year. Those, in theory, would be pushed off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who's got some more information that he's done research.
What I hear you saying right now is, except for the amount of money, which you have not addressed, whether you want us to approve that or not, you have already accommodated all the other changes within your budget.
And I'll just say that I have no funds in the budget for this. And so.
But you need no funds for the changes except this new study.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
And so the question is, that we are wanting an answer on. What is the recommendation of funding the new study? Yes or no?
I'll tell you, I wouldn't fund it.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, so, and I, Chris and I are aligned in the River Authority as a whole, that this $175,000 that's laid out here, is highly dependent on desktop analysis of existing data that has a lot of holes. It is a limited amount of data, as those breaks occurred in the past. The River Authority's primary goal and focus was to get those lines back in service. So as we were out fixing those lines, yes, there was probably some lack of data collection based on some of the questions that are asked in this memo here. But, that's something that I think we can improve on. So coming out of this, if we have a future water breaks, I think there is different data that we can collect and keep a more comprehensive record. Where sometime down the road, maybe a modeling software or AI technology could be a benefit. But right now, with the limited amount of data that we have, there's not a $175,000 worth of value.
And you can't believe the comments that we received on this 40-minute discussion about all the things they were supposed to start gaining information on. About 20 items, wasn't it? That,
Yeah,
That's paralysis by analysis. Is that what we're talking about?
that
oh,
was brought up.
they wanted an analysis on everything.
Okay.
So the only thing I was concerned about, not so much whether it's in the budget, but is there a return on that investment? And what I'm hearing, based on the data,
No.
you, the professionals, don't see that return on investment. Okay.
Okay.
Dan, you have
Is that
anything else?
it?
That's primarily what.
Okay, then I guess we're going to address our general manager for his recommendation.
I'm gonna reserve my recommendation.
No, a recommendation on whether we should fund it or
I'm gonna
not.
reserve my recommendation till further date.
Well, I can't vote at the next without the concurrence of this board. And I would really like your opinion on that before I have to go before the board next month.
Well, I can say that the two options that have been proposed, I would agree with what's been stated, that the data that we have today, in order to put into another desktop model, is not sufficient. And I don't believe that the data that we have available today, put into another desktop model, would produce any better data than we have.
Thank you, I got it.
There is growing interest from several MUDs, and there's quite a few reports and articles out that have identified some different modeling that might be more substantial.
Yeah.
Now, that may have some validity. So that's why I'm.
Yeah, and of
I
course,
reserve.
like I tried to point out at the trustee meeting, we built the Woodlands over 25 years. And small increments at a time, Con 10s were approved. That's the approval of the MUD to build these facilities. Different engineering groups build them over 25 years. Different engineers were hired to say they were built to spec, but they didn't look at it. Okay, and I noted the $500,000 problem near the Wedge of Mud Lake that we had in Mud 40 as an example, and that was relatively new. And there's just no uniformity of our system at this time. And they're saying we want to start replacing it on a basis, and it will be done by San Jacinto River Authority under their supervision. And it does not include the MUD's pipes. And would you explain, please, the difference between the MUD's pipes and San Jacinto's pipes.
Sure, essentially San Jacinto pipes are the larger distribution, we would call distribution lines that would come to the Woodlands and throughout the major thoroughfares. And then the smaller diameter pipes are the ones that would go into the communities and serve the community, serve the
Yeah.
residents.
It used to be what, 9-inch on the water and
It's
12-inch on the sewer?
12 and 15, 12 on the water.
12 on
15
water.
on the sewer.
And they don't.
12 in the water, 15 in the sewer.
Anything
Okay,
over
thank
12.
you. So we own the small lines that go into the major system and to the homes. And all this they're talking about does not include any of that.
Just to the point of clarity, so there was a motion and a second to have an item on all, or to request that an item be placed on MUD agendas to get direction, to have the MUDs give direction to their trustee on this issue. That motion and second were withdrawn after a lot of discussion. And so where it was left after Hartley's comments was that staff from the River Authority and Woodlands Water would come back and make a recommendation to have additional discussion at the July trustee meeting, and then we would see where we go. So basically, the brakes got tapped a bit
Yeah.
on this.
So we don't have to vote on anything and so forth. Okay. Do you have any other comments then?
Well, but at least Hartley, you have our sentiment and our feelings.
Yeah. And my vote to fund this new study will be no at this time.
Any other comments? All right. Item 13, update on the Spring Creek. Dan?
Yeah, and I just remembered something else real quick. Next week on Tuesday, there's a flyer in here. There's an all mud meeting for the wastewater strategic planning phase 2. So, that's been quiet for the past few months now as we've talked about the AC Waterline program, but I do encourage y'all to attend that and get an update on where we're at with optimizing the capacity of the facilities. Okay, just wanted to note that real quick. Moving on to Spring Creek, very short, quick update is last week, the solar company reached out to us and wanted to start discussing any sort of ways that the detention facilities and the solar farm could coexist. So there's been no decisions or agreements of any sort at this time, just kind of real introductory discussions on is there alternatives that we could possibly look at. So it was very positive from our side of things that they came back to us to discuss that. So we're going to continue to find opportunities to look at those alternatives and try to.
And that's the Walnut Creek site, is that correct?
Primarily Walnut.
So how about the developers on the Birch Creek?
I have not heard anything from them or heard nothing. I don't have that.
Are we pursuing that?
Pursuing.
Talking
Talking
to the,
to them?
yeah,
As far as I know, yeah, we were trying to reach out to them, but I would have to verify with Matt Barrett, who's really leading that coordination right now. That's all I have for updates there. And I think we had a successful meeting early last month down here at the Woodlands Township. Public meeting.
I think I may have mentioned last month that about 100 people attended that meeting, and I thought it was far more successful than I imagined. Thought we might have 10 people, but 100 people showed up, so it was well received.
You've done a wonderful job in helping coordinate that, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 14, attorney's report.
Yes, sir. Thankfully, the regular legislative session is over. It ended on Memorial Day. A lot of the bills that we were tracking as usual ended up not making it across the finish line. Talk about each session, there's usually about a 85% failure rate for bills. Only 10 to 15% of bills pass every session. But we, the saying goes, if you're not in the kitchen, you may be on the menu. So it's good to be involved and be a part of the process. So we were we're active as we always are. The few bills that we tracked that still had some legs late in the session that did not pass. And we'll have a full, what we prepare for all of our district clients is a full legislative summary of bills that passed, as well as important bills that we tracked that did not pass. And we provide that to all of our district clients when it's available, probably be in the next week or two. So what we've done since we've had the Google Drive is we've asked Shelley to put it on there so folks can download it. So when that's available, we'll provide that to Shelley to get to y'all. The bill that we talked about that would have required for directors to be landowners in the district and not allow for directors to be eligible to serve if they just reside in the district. That bill did not pass. So there was some concern about the impact of that bill. If there was a renter or someone for whatever reason just lived in the district, didn't own property, that bill did not pass. Unfortunately, the bill that would have opened up the opportunity for more virtual meetings, that bill did not pass. The bill that would have prohibited the use of public funds for lobbying that passed the Senate, that did not pass the House either. Thankfully, the MUD omnibus bill that had some odds and ends cleanup, that bill did pass. The Public Facility Corporation bill that we talked about, I think last month, that has been a problem in the state for taxing jurisdictions that was allowing for taxable multifamily units that provide some level of low-income housing. The thresholds for that were very low, to where a lot of apartments could qualify without even changing their rents. That bill did pass to make it to where the governmental entities that would be having their taxes exempted would have to prove that or have a payment in lieu of taxes, because what we've had on a handful of district clients is, and this is throughout the state, is apartments that were already in place that had significant taxable value. All of a sudden, the taxable value is just gone. There's no advance notice to the taxing jurisdictions. There's no advance notice to the appraisal district. And for smaller districts, I mean, ours are very substantial relative to the most MUDs in terms of the acreage as well as the assessed value impact. And I don't know that we've had any that have shown up that have gone. I know you were looking into it a little bit, but going forward, I think that's going to become much less prevalent, because the thresholds for low income have gone up quite a bit to make it not as lucrative for some of these folks that were able to essentially just take the tax savings straight to the bottom line. So that bill did pass. We were concerned that it could get vetoed because there was a lot of political gamesmanship between the lieutenant governor and the governor. You may have seen the press conference from the lieutenant governor on Friday about property tax reform, and the governor was vetoing a number of bills to try to influence the Senate to pass the House's version. He did veto quite a number. Last I saw was in the mid-70s, but there was some concern that the veto number could have gone into 200s or hundreds plus, and it could have included the PFC bill. It did not. It could have included the omnibus bill for MUDs. It did not. The deadline for vetoes was Sunday night at midnight, so we were able to find out yesterday, what did and did not get vetoed. So that portion of the session is over. We do anticipate there will probably be multiple special sessions, because on property tax reform, the House and the Senate are still pretty far apart. On school vouchers, the House has been reluctant to approve something that the Senate has. So those two issues are still high priorities for the governor. So those would probably come back. Good news for MUD world is that where the discussion is on property tax reform shouldn't impact, in the current form, should not impact our tax revenues. An earlier version of the House bill would have limited the appraisal cap year to year. It would have lowered it from 10% down to 5%, and it would have been applicable to not just homesteads, which is how it applies now. It would have been applicable to all properties. So commercial properties, rental properties, et cetera. So that would have
Personal property?
Would have impacted commercial properties and rental properties. So second homes, homes that people rent out. that would have had a much more far-reaching impact on the ability of districts to increase their tax base over time. That component of the House bill has fallen off. Now the real battle is over this compressing, what they call compression of the school district tax rates to have the state essentially subsidize the school district reduction of their tax rate that would be applicable to all properties, again, not just homesteads. Or the Senate wants to do that with 70% of the tax, the state surplus, and for 30% of that surplus, the lieutenant governor wants to do $100,000 homestead exemption for school district taxes that would be more targeted just to homeowners. So that's where the real battle is right now is, do you do a component of that revenue to go targeted to resident homestead owners, or do you have 100% of it go to all property owners that would lower the impact to resident homestead owners for taxes? So that's where they are now, as you see it come up in the news. Things could change, of course, but where we are right now is it shouldn't impact mud revenues for tax purposes and mud values.
What is the consensus on who's gonna win? I guess you can say Abbott or there's.
It takes two to tango. I mean, the governor has got the right to call special sessions, but both sides have to agree on a bill. And what the House did is that they came in, started their special session, repassed their House bill, and adjourned in a day. And so there was no negotiation. And that's what the lieutenant governor was saying. You know, we've been here for a month since the special session was called. We're still here. Don't know where the speaker is, don't know where the House is, but you know, we're here, but we can't negotiate with ourselves. So, yeah.
Could it just turn into a stalemate?
I mean, you've got to think that there's too much on the line with so much property tax reform. There's too much money on the table to benefit the taxpayers of the state of Texas. Just have everybody say, sorry, we're just not going to do anything. You've got to think at some point there's going to be a compromise, but right now they're pretty dug in.
All right.
That's the attorney report for today.
Well, thank you very much.
You got 'em.
All right. Item 15, consider an act on Lone Star Groundwater to serve the district plan phase 3 subsidence study.
There's a letter in your packet that we received. It was sent out to all the groundwater users in Montgomery County back at the end of May. It is a letter from Lone Star essentially requesting any funding assistance and or the identification or location of a location for some new wells to be put in or cores to be put in for testing to identify their goal as they're in, I believe, phase 3 of their subsidence study to identify subsidence, specifically the compressibility of the aquifers is what they're looking at. So at the SRA GRP meeting yesterday, Jim Spigner represented that they aren't looking for funding at this point or don't necessarily need it, I think is what he said, and was asking the GRP board to consider if there was any locations. I think SRA noted that they might have a couple locations to suggest. So I'm not sure that there's any action to be taken or decision to be made at this point, based on what I'm seeing.
That letter in here that said they wanted participants to contribute to is not valid now.
It specifically says that in the letter. Yes, yesterday he said he really wasn't that concerned with the funding aspect.
And your recommendation is no action at this time.
Yes.
Well, I would like to say that I've been very vocal. And at the Lone Star meeting, I specifically mentioned, I think putting in these extensometers and all the other things they want to do is a delaying action so they can continue to pump. And Bruce Tuff wrote a kind of a blistering letter that I think is in our packet. And so I suggested that I would support what they're doing if they stop pumping above a recharge rate, a reasonable recharge rate. And of course, they didn't like that suggestion. So they're inching closer and closer to the 97,000 acre feet that they are allowed to pump above the previous 64,000. And talking to John Yours the other day, he said that since 2022, we've increased groundwater pumping by 16,000 acre feet a year. So the best way to visualize that is a 1 acre plot of land 3 miles high. That's the amount of water that we're pumping out of aquifers over and above what we were doing before 2022. So we're, I view a lot of their actions as just stalling and postponing, making some real hard-nosed decisions on how much groundwater pumping we can do.
All right, so there's no action on this particular item. Then, all right.
Unless you want to throw some money at it.
All right, item 16, review and act on resolution in support of Chase Houston. I think everybody's got a copy of that.
And some background on that. Many of us were very upset at what the representatives and senators, Senators Colhorst and Creighton, and Representatives Will Metcalf, and Steve Toth have done to basically get rid of the general manager of the San Jacinto River Authority. Many of us felt that that was excessive meddling in the rights of an appointed board to select a general manager and the right to fire the general manager. And Chase Houston, being the gentleman that he is, volunteered to resign, but he was under great pressure to do so. And some of his statements are expressed in our packet. A number of us got together to work on a resolution letting, first of all, Lone Star Board know how we feel, to let SJRA know how we feel, and to let the township and anybody else who's interested on how we feel. And 6 of us got together last week to put together the resolution that you saw. And also we got input from Brian on that. So this thing has been pretty heavily vetted and worked over.
6 from different muds.
From many, and so far there are, at least I'm aware of, 6 muds support this resolution, and I really haven't talked to the other 4, so I don't know how they feel about it. And it may have been too late for some of the muds to have it on their agenda, but it is on our agenda, so I would I make the motion that we approve the resolution as drafted.
Second,
So just one, I think,
you have an amendment to it?
well, a point to make is maybe how you characterize the motion. So I think that looks like there's still some dots in here that I'm not sure if that means that there's still some thought about how to further massage this language among directors. So my suggestion to y'all, and my view is not as to substance, it's just to see that it is mud policy based as opposed to being political in nature. I'm not going to speak to the actual verbiage in here or the politics of it, but I think a motion that would give you all a little bit of flexibility would be to consider approval subject to finalization and any final revisions by the general manager, and authorize the board president to execute on behalf of.
You changed your motion to that. Yeah, I heard.
So furthermore, I just might want to add too, that last night Metro decided to also go forward with it, or to go forward with it, with the expectation that the board president would sign on their behalf. And that if there were any additional adjustments that were needed amongst the whole group, whomever agrees to go forward with it, that so such changes would be made.
Well, I will modify my motion that we approve the resolution subject to final wordsmithing by the general manager and our president.
There's
And
a
I
second.
second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
And thank you for that
Motion
work.
carries.
It's wonderful. And if you want it on a plaque kind of deal, you can put the Woodlands Water behind it like you did before, right? I'll give you the paper.
To give you some perspective as well, as you mentioned, it didn't make all of the agendas, so we're going to present it today as this is what other MUDs are doing. And then most likely it'll be on the agenda for finalization of the MUDs that it didn't make it on for next month. And then we will probably need direction on who it goes to. I think you mentioned a few just now, so we'll need to finalize that as well.
Okay. 17, staff update and annual ditch report.
Me, first of all, welcome Drew and Mindy. We're happy to have you on the team. My name is Mike Mooney. I'm the Deputy General Manager here at Woodlands Water, supporting Eric and staff. I am a 38-year resident of the Woodlands, licensed civil engineer, and today is my 19-year anniversary year. We did do our annual tour of the drainage ditches in your district. I've identified 11 items that need our attention. Superintendent and I, in conjunction with the consultant, Chapman's Hydrolon, I believe we can fix 6 of the items with our in-house staff. There's 5 of those items that we're going to need maybe some outside help. We don't know if we have enough money in the budget this year to fix that. We haven't solicited prices yet. And if not, they're not emergency items. We can put it in the budget for next year to repair. The items range from simple erosion control to possibly pipe replacements.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have excess funds.
You do
So
have-
if you want us to go into our reserve to fund it this year, I think we'd like to consider that.
Yeah, I don't think they're really major ticket items, you know,
Okay.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, no. But it's a little bit above what we can handle with our in-house staff. But we just haven't. got
Yeah,
any
I
prices.
understand, but if you don't have money for it,
Yeah.
you know, our budget is not required that you do things immediately like the budget. Unlike federal budgets where you can't exceed the amount that's funded. You have that opportunity.
Question I have, drainage ditches that go on the golf course. Is that our responsibility?
Well, a lot of there are some erosion issues that are caused by the golf course. They tie under drains and pipes and stuff into the ditches without, not properly. They are ours. We do mow them and maintain them, but there are spots where you just can't do it. It's so far in the woods before you get to Panther Creek, we just can't do anything without a bunch of work there.
Well, I'm
We can't
looking
fix
at the golf course on specifically on the 13th hole of the called the West Course. Now, there's serious erosion on the golf course itself. So you ride the cart path and you go by it. The erosion is quite severe.
Oh, I know what the area you're talking about. Yeah. There's a lot of under drains, if you notice that, tied in that very close to that same location.
But what I don't know is it responsibility of the golf course to fix that or our responsibility?
Well, that's a good question. The golf course caused that by their low water crossings, all the stuff that they put in there were not approved by us, and they're not done to our specifications. But it is our ditch.
Maybe we need to have a conversation with them.
Well, we've had, and of course, they don't have any money. You know the stories. I mean, it's the same story from them every year.
They don't have any money.
They don't have any money. They don't
I
have any
raise my
money. to do
dues every year for 25 years. They're owned by the Apollo Group,
Yeah.
the hedge fund.
Yeah, we got with John going back for many, many years. I don't even know if he's still there.
But
But
they,
anyways, most of the minor erosions we can take care of. Those are a challenge. If we want to do that, or we want to try to engage them.
and they do have the money to replace the carpets in some of the buildings, put a new roof over the resort, and do a lot of painting. And
I
patch
would
the
say-
roads.
I would say we force them to do it. I mean, I think we need to have a conversation with them. They have the money to
The
do it.
area I'm thinking about, I'm not familiar with the course, all that, there's a low water crossing. They've got a pipe and a cart path that goes down.
Mhm,
Just to the right of that is pretty severe erosion.
mhm.
There's several, some of those black pipes tied in that are just stuck out in the ditch. They're not bedded, there's no riprap, they're actually causing the problem. And then we've got homeowners that have tied the pipes in, you know the drill. They've illegally tied their pipes in, we just need to have them cut off at the fence. They're causing some minor erosions. There's some minor sinkholes, nothing major. But that area is really directly caused by the golf course. But it is our ditch.
Well, maybe you and I you can show me or go out there and I'll go talk to the general manager over to you and I can go talk to him.
I'd be happy to go out there with you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple years ago, we did a walkabout on all the ditches and we made a kind of like a maintenance plan. So this is an update of that plan that say that there's areas that we can prevent future flooding, by doing this. So, and John, also thank you for putting that in the website about residents contacting people if their drainage is plugged, through there. I think we talked about it last. I think that was good putting in there. Thank you, Mike. Do we need a motion on authorizing any funds for any work or? We don't, okay. General manager's report, Eric?
All right, well, we've covered a lot of what I was going to talk about, just a few items left. I did, Jeannie and I last week received a presentation from our esteemed Arthur, as well as the chief appraiser for MCAT, to present the 2024 budget. It was very well put together presentation. It was very informative for me going through it. There is some changes and some additions that MCAT is looking at, particularly in some technology, some software. Their software, I think, is 15 years old. They're also looking at increasing the numbers for the ARB board, which helps with the protests, excuse me. So that's kind of the big changes. There's some increases. I don't know if there's anything else we want to add to that. There's I don't think there's any approval necessary today. Just wanted to share that with you, that it has.
That's available if you want to take a look at it.
I have a copy of it and it is on Google Drive.
Yes. Wanted to mention, in addition to Mike's 19, Dan Kennard has hit 44 years with Woodlands Water a couple weeks ago. Pretty significant anniversary working here. I did, as I mentioned last month, was going to start having John talk a little bit about the public outreach that we've been doing this year and will continue to do. And so with that, I'd like to have John take over.
Hi, so I'm John Geiger. I'm the Water Awareness and Public Education Coordinator. And just going to give you some quick highlights from communications for the past month. So we just exited the second quarter of our strategic plan, which the focus was on water quality. Now, moving into the summer months, we're going to focus on water conservation. So we change our marketing and our messaging strategies accordingly. Of course, we hit all of the relevant topics as well. Go along in our communications. We are seeing some encouraging returns on our efforts since we started the strategic plan. Looking at our website, which is a nice barometer of how we're reaching the community, because we tie into the website with a lot of our other outlets. We try to push that as best as possible. We're seeing a 34% increase in average page views per month over 2022. And my apologies, you have the report on page 55 if you want to refer to that. So that's encouraging, and that's 43% higher than our 5-year average. What makes that even more encouraging is we've done a number of things to restructure the website to make it more navigable and simpler for folks to use. For instance, the bill pay aspect, which is a significant component of our website, we've reduced the clicks from 5 to 3 per resident. So it's easier. And when we look at that, it's next to the increase in number of page views, what that seems to suggest is folks are getting there and they're starting to see all the other great material we have there, all the educational offerings and services presented there. So we'll keep tracking that and hopefully those numbers will continue to climb. For you directors, if you're not on our weekly email list, let me know and I can add you to that. So every Monday morning, we send out an irrigation recommendation and a newsletter, 9 a.m. every Monday. And that's got lots of quick hitters, useful lawn and landscaping tips, and helps folks water correctly. Most of our water goes in the landscape. We put a lot of effort there and helping folks water effectively. So right now we've got a 56% open rate on those emails. So folks are opening that email and they're engaging with it. That's an 11% increase in the past 12 months, the open rate. That puts us 19 points higher than the industry average for public agencies. So that's really encouraging. In our click rate, we've increased that 50% in the last 12 months. So folks, once they're getting into it, they're engaging with it. I'll point to a couple other things. So main outlets for advertising, Community Impact, digital and print, Chronicle, and Woodlands Community Magazine. That's a big one for us. And that each month in that magazine, we have a two-thirds page ad and an article almost every month as well. So the current article is on CCRs, concurrent with our distribution of those to all households. And then look for an article on our water loss reduction coming up in July. Effects from our smart water meter installation. And then August, we'll have some lawn watering tips for folks. We also utilize social media, Facebook and Twitter. Content from our emails feeds that social media to a large degree. Our bill ads. So a lot of folks that get paper bills, 70-some% of our accounts receive a paper bill. Is that right, Marie?
70%.
Right in there, 70, right in that neighborhood. So that's still an important piece for us. We change that up every month. Utilize that piece. And then, so watch for that. And then the last thing I want to touch on was the communications consultant for the infrastructure renewal program that SGRA was spearheading. So that is in process. Proposals were due last Friday. We'll get those by tomorrow. We'll review those. Dr. Gaynor, Eric, myself, there's some others. We'll go through those very thoroughly. We'll have ample opportunity to provide our feedback to SGRA. We won't actually be on the supporting selection committee. And there is an error at the bottom there. I had the earliest award July. It's really looking more like well into August, maybe late August before we have somebody in here.
I think you're doing a fabulous job. I hear a lot of good comments from people that once you tell them the availability of the information is out there, and once they go to the website, they go, "Wow, I didn't realize this." So I mean, I think it's. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there.
There's a lot of good stuff. Two comments. One is I mentioned before, a lot of people still want to know how much rain we get. And I think it'd be, good if people can just go to the website real quick. I know we have rain cages throughout the Woodlands, and I know you put out weekly, do you need to water this week, and then so forth. And I follow it religiously. But you'll say we got 2 inches of rain, and I'll go, Jesus, I got 4 inches, I think. But then I think I got a half an inch of rain at my house. But people would like to know, I think. And then the other thing, there's a lot of things in the media from other cities. And, you know, I was reading where, I think it's Stewart, Florida, has a big lawsuit against 3M for contamination of their water because of the foam that the firemen use. And I had people ask me questions, you know, hey, is that a problem here? And, you know, I just think sometimes, you know, if we read something there, it might be good if we investigate it and maybe even put something on the website on the weekly thing put out that, you know, hey, other cities, but we don't have that issue here. And I just think it'd be good, maybe a heads up, because, you know, people ask you questions and I can't answer. And I don't know if that's an issue here, but it's a pretty big lawsuit. I mean, it's like 4,000 plaintiffs or something like that out there.
So to the first point, you raised that before in a previous meeting about getting some weather data on the homepage, and I think that's an excellent idea. It's a service and it's a great hook to draw people to our website. One reason to come look at Woodlands Water and to see what else we have to offer. So that was not lost. We've had some preliminary discussions on how we might do that. And I would like to see, I'd like to make a great effort to see if we can do that. Engages, put that on there. That's a good idea. I think what you're talking about feeds into the larger PFAS issue, assuming with the retardant issue in Florida. That is a growing issue. The general public is learning more and more about that. I did a post on that in the newsletter a few weeks ago, but would like to keep touching on that as we get more concerned about it and put it in some other places. Get it on the website. It's a great idea. So you can point to it. That's always nice. If you don't have the information, I don't have the information, I can say it, but we can point right to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we have a fire training center, you know, and I'm sure that for years and years, I've been using Homo over there, and, you know, so people say, where does that go?
Yeah.
We want to thank you for your assistance on, and our president's efforts to put out our annual report. That's something new, and I think it's nice to see it, and looking ahead, it says really what some of our goals are, which is nice to have that in as well. And it's not just another piece of paper. It's a good piece that I think the public was going to enjoy, and I appreciate it, and it's professionally done.
Yeah.
And we saw a great response to that. Folks were opening emails, I think the average within the mid-60% rate for those emails. And then you guys mailed it with the monthly bills.
We appreciate what you guys been doing. Thank you very much.
Just a couple quick other items. One, I just wanted to also point out that Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District received the resignation from their general manager last week. So that marks by the end of this year that all three of the major water entities in Montgomery County will have new leadership, WWA, SGRA, and Lone Star. And that's a pretty significant thing for Montgomery County. And finally, just something that happened in the trustee meeting. We talked about AC, but the trustees authorized me to draft a letter of accommodation for Jace Houston. And we plan to complete that and then present that to the SGRA board on Thursday. And I'll probably read it to the board at their board meeting. And that is all I had.
Thank you. It's too bad we couldn't have this resolution done. We could prevent that also. Never a dull moment. Okay, Harley, trustee, report, anything?
A good summary in the packet. Are there any questions? Most of the items have been discussed.
We have no comments. All right, item 20, recess in the closed session. I don't think that's required. 21, reopen. Okay. Discussion matters, future agenda.
Yeah, we've got to go the first alternate, second alternate, and trustee. Next meeting.
Bet on that.
Our attorney says that wasn't in the agenda, so we can't have
I just recited.
it.
Typical attorney. We had talked about Jeff Long and Helen Bostock.
I talked to both of them. They have picked up their plaques and the letter that went with it. Helen has moved to Denver. And Jeff couldn't make it today, and he said just convey my thanks and appreciation.
Anything else for future agenda? All right, item 23, I have a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead. Second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. And
Good
welcome.
meeting. Good meeting.